Hi everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the KWS Cast. And this week I have the pleasure of talking to Sharon Fisher, who is our head of safety and my colleague actually in Keywords Player Support. Hi Sharon.
Hey, how's it going, James?
Not too bad, thank you. Thank
Thanks
you.
for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And just for the benefit of the people watching, so I wonder if you could kick us off by introducing yourself and your role in our team here at Keywords.
Okay, yes. Everything started with a penguin for me, a club penguin, from 17 years ago or so. We were a team, small team in Canada, just trying to make sure that a game was fun. And the whole idea was penguins throwing snowballs at each other and in a safe way, because years and years ago, kids being in the internet was not a thing, or at least parents believe it was not safe. So we wanted to make sure that that happened for kids. We did something right, and that's where I discovered my love and passion for communities. We were listening to 7, 8-year-old kids, 5-year-olds, just giving ideas, and then we will make them happen. And that, I think, was a secret recipe of success, to the point that Disney came to town, bought the whole thing, and then we became, from a startup to part of Disney, which, if you can imagine, was literally magical. Disney magic everywhere. With that, or after that, I moved to an automated tool company, again, protecting communities, just making sure that anything that will be said in the filter will be pre-moderated first by an automated tool. And I had an amazing opportunity of working with gaming companies that I've already admired. Um, Everywhere and around the world. And with that, I learned a lot of their internal goals, how they will foresee moderation, to the point that I felt during COVID that I was the perfect timing to quit my job and start my own consulting company, helping these kind of companies, making sure that their communities were healthy and thriving. So I did that for a year and a half, and then Keywords reached out to me, so I could pretty much do the same, but at a much, much, much larger scale. And that's how I came to be at Keywords. I'm super excited. I'm 3.5 months and just getting started. So that's me.
Well, we're absolutely thrilled to have you, and I've loved working with you. We've been working closely together on because I guess we have a very similar aim, is that you and I both want positive, healthy online communities, safe online communities, and we approach that from slightly different angles, but the aim remains the same. I should also, I forgot to mention up front, I'm wearing my pink shirt because this week it was anti-bullying day. That was on May the 4th. So it's quite an apt time for us to be having this conversation. But for those people that are watching, because I always say to all the people I speak to on these interviews, is that we have a very diverse audience in terms of not everybody will come from a moderation or customer support or community background. Um, so so when we talk about safe and healthy online communities, what are the sort of factors that we're, I guess, trying to prevent or trying to block?
Yeah, and I think it also ties a lot with the fact of what even is trust and safety,
Mm,
right? So I have found that a lot, and trust and safety is relatively new to companies. What are the factors and what trust and safety specific to keywords we're trying to do is a variety of things. Number one in our list is making sure our clients and moderators are protected and have the right tools to support healthy and safe communities. With that, it divides in many other pieces. On the client side of things, we're working side by side with their teams to understand what their moderation policies are, helping them out, sometimes even setting up those moderation policies, what the goal of the game is, what the vibe and what goes and what doesn't go within their game. Also on the business side, what kind of technology they are currently utilizing. So if they already have a provider or one that they want to work with, we also work with that provider because we want to create that perfect triangle of client, technology, and humans. We thankfully are now in 2022, and we have realized that humans need machines and machines need humans. So now those conversations are very, very easy to have. Clients are very happy that technology and humans are talking, and we are all pushing the same way and helping each other to do so. Then on the human side of things, we have, again, our moderators and their tools. What kind of tools are we providing to make sure that when they go and put themselves out there, they are protected from that same harassment, and their mental well-being is also protected. Many subdivisions in there, from resilience and well-being, inclusivity and diversity talks to make them or have them more equipped to make those decisions. So it's from, again, technology, business, and what I would like to call like the soul protection, because it's a hard job to be doing every single day. And then we go further to that, and there's many other partnerships that we are creating to make sure that once and if we get any kind of content that is very damaging to the internet, we have those partnerships to make sure that they can do something about it. So that's something that we're continuously growing. And also looking on the legal side of things, when our clients come to us to set up communities and moderation processes, community management and anything like that, we also have a certain edge and understanding of what is it, the policies that they will apply to them. We are not lawyers, and I will always say that in very small letters, saying like we are not lawyers. We just know what's happening within the industry, and we will bring some red flags if we see them, so they can then take care of those. So Trust and Safety right now is doing many, many things and pulling things together. I think for keywords, it's just the way of getting to the next step. We are really good at doing moderation, community management. Now, how do we make sure that is, number one, scalable, but also we're working with the different pieces and putting it all together.
Very important work. So the technology, the triangle you mentioned there, and the technology and humans working together, is a very interesting aspect on it. So what is it? Where does more specifically, where does the technology come in? What is the technology good at that humans aren't good at, and vice versa?
Yeah, technology has evolved so much the past, I would say, 10, 15 years. So when I started, we had a filter that you just added words, and then it's allow and deny kind of thing. But then you will have these issues where if they were saying something positive, utilizing one of these words, it still wouldn't go through. Or if a word contained whatever you had added, it won't go through. So that was hindering expressivity. Then filters turn into more contextual. So let's take a look at what's around and who is the user and what has been said. So there's a big leap. Then we went to AI, which we all humans were like, I will never allow AI to make decisions for me. But then we understood, and I believe that happened 2.5 years ago. We understood that now the volumes that we see in gaming, there's no human that can get to them on time. And I think that's the key word right now, pun intended. Getting to this content on time is what we're trying to do. So if it's negative, we want to make sure that it doesn't expand through the platform and it hurts as many people as possible. If it's positive, we want to make sure that we celebrate it, that we expand it, that we are there with the community. So that's when I think we realized that we need each other. Never mind on the side of technology. We also understand that this is language, and myself, like, I speak Spanish as my first language, and I know if I go to Spain and I say exactly the same thing that I was saying Mexico, some people in Spain will be like really offended because I use the same words, it just means totally different. So I think technology has also come to terms that, especially when you talk about languages, there's that gray area where you do need moderators to be making those calls. The same applies to video and pictures. And let's make sure technology takes the worst out of the picture. So the swearing, the violence, the sexting, or pornography is out. The kitties and babies and unicorns are posted. And then there's a gray area where moderators can, number one, make sure that they make the call, but also help technology get better on those gray challenges. So I think I've said it many times lately, but moderation is a perfect time right now for us to just pull together and work together to make sure that what's being put out there in gaming, our communities, forums, everywhere is as healthy as possible for all the users.
Yeah, I like that the way you described that, and as we've discussed before, where you have the technology is the first line of defense, really, and it's taking away all of the most egregious examples of unwanted toxic content for the protection, for the good of the community, but also for the good of the moderators, because if it can be prevented, we don't want them to be exposed to much of what can be shared online. And then we also allow the moderators, we free them up, and the community managers as well, for their role to be more about promoting positive online conversation. So yeah, I'm fully on board with everything that you said. So I mean, I agree that these tools have gotten so much better, and the ones that I've seen over the last few years, I think it's and the contextual side has been huge as well. I mean, is it AI or machine learning that has been the big driver of those improvements?
I think it's a combination of both. And again, part of the evolution that we have seen in the tools, everything is started on machine learning, and then little by little, and because of scalability, volumes, and being a little bit more exact, people is looking more and more to AI. I think the challenge has always been for this tool having or owning the data to train these kind of models on the AI side, but again, volume of text and pictures in gaming and social media are highest as they ever been. So I think these kind of companies are now taking advantage of these being available out there to make those tools smarter. Definitely, I see the trend going more and more AI. It's getting smarter and smarter. But the one thing is, as smart as it gets, there's always going to be these little things that the user is going to come up with that we have to commend them for trying to be subversive. And it's just human nature. And there's also the added factor of pop culture now is changing literally every 2 minutes. So these added challenges that we cannot foresee, no matter how much AI do you have, it's just the natural happenings are now coming into social media and gaming and being part of it. Those pieces, that's where humans are so needed to make sure that we can adapt and guide somehow the technology to make better decisions for us at the right time or with us.
So in order to make those decisions, we need guidelines, and there is no one kind of source of truth set of guidelines that applies to every online community. They all tend to be different. Projects we work on have different guidelines. Is there an overarching philosophy to creating moderation guidelines that you tend to recommend or adhere to yourself?
Yeah, I think there's one piece that is becoming more and more important, and that many of our clients are also agreeing with, which is transparency. Moderation with the transparency, it can be taken as freedom of speech being suppressed. We have to be transparent in every sense when it comes to moderating or engaging with communities from the get-go, creating terms of use that are very easily explainable and readable, because we all know that we don't read those. But they need to be as easy and constant, no matter on which network you are, because we know communities nowadays thrive in-game chat and their own guilds, but there's also Discord, but there's also Facebook. So we want to make sure that this transparency is also shining light of, no matter where you are within our title, within our community, we have the same standards for each of those ways of communicating. The other one is clarity on what if you don't go with the terms of use, what will happen, right? So people understands that this is where the line is drawn. If you go a little bit farther, then these are the consequences / penalties that you will see. Again, being very open, very clear. It's like playing a basketball game and knowing the rules versus playing a basketball game and getting there and just like not knowing that if you like give 2 steps, that's not okay. You need to know the rules that you will be playing with and the consequences if you decide not to. So while you said it really good, every single community, even within the same gaming company, is very different. Their audience, the theme of the game or the forum, even the mechanics of the game are different. The one constant that we are always striving is to make sure that we are as transparent as possible and our clients are able to answer those questions. Why do you moderate this? And you can just go like, number 2, it says right there, right? And it says that if you don't do it, then this will happen. So transparency overall, again, I think it's a byproduct of what has been happening for the last 3 years, where users are actually pushing for having safer and healthier spaces online, but they also holding companies accountable to where if you don't do this, then this is going to happen, and how do you do it and why do you do it? So we are trying to make sure that when people or users ask those questions, we have an easy and straightforward answer to this is why we do it and how.
Yeah, you're right. Every community has its own tone, its own sort of flavor and style. One of the things that we see relatively often is that yeah, you know, because obviously some games are made for an older audience. Some games are super competitive. And we sometimes see this kind of idea that it's like, oh well, if my game is super competitive, should I allow like trash talk in my community? Which there's a logic to it, but what we see time and time again is that really does generate hostility, and that hostility can make a community incredibly unwelcome, and it can escalate incredibly quickly. So even for those very competitive games or games for a mature audience, we tend to recommend a very low threshold on any aggressive, toxic behavior online, and having those clear guidelines is hugely important, as you say.
Yeah, the way that you say it is, it reminds me of this example of there's different talk that we as humans utilize, right? If I'm talking to my kids, I'm obviously going to be really clean, I'm really proper and loving and caring. That's who I am. If you're going to brunch with your girlfriends, you still keep it clean, but maybe there could be some kind of like spice out there. And then if you're going to a pub, a bar, then maybe you are a totally different person and you just want to let loose and just say and do whatever you want. So that's kind of how we see moderation and games fitting on this, right? There's a place and a time for everything. You wouldn't take a kid to the pub because you know what they're going to be exposed, right? And the pub crowd is not going to be happy at the playground with the kids. So we want to make sure that we don't make that call on that, but we understand what our client foresees or imagines, or what the goal is of that environment there's many games, and there's totally no judgment on that, where they just don't even have anything in place, right? And that's their choice. But I do believe that now we have to answer more questions to the user side of things. How is that sitting on them? Let's take a look on your long-term value. Let's take a look at your reported content. Let's analyze, and that will help you kind of like guide that threshold. Because you might not be doing anything, but as soon as you look at your reported content, you see a trend on people reporting racist comments, right? So why spend all this time dealing with angry, sometimes hurt people, and even users that they have already gone away, when you can have a preventive measure, just saying like, okay, no racism is allowed in this platform, which again, I think the bar is very straightforward. Like, as a human, you wouldn't go anywhere, playground or brunch or pub, and just scream racial slurs, right? So there's some key components that we can help our clients with to just figure out, where does your game fit? Does this work for you with the theme and with the different tools that we have to help our clients feel comfortable that the area that we're going to be playing, it's going to be the one that will drive more engagement and keep users connected and just coming back to your game.
Good. I think when we talk about this week, we talk about moderation software and then human moderators and multiple languages, which is the work that we do and can be on a very large scale. I'm conscious that there may be people watching this who are new to this world. Maybe they are at the early stages of thinking about having a community for their game. So for those sort of people who maybe have a smaller community or a community that they're about to grow, what are some good first steps to ensuring a safe, healthy online community?
Yeah, I think creating a community from the get-go, as soon as you start thinking about developing a game, developing a platform, the first thing that you should be thinking is like, how are you going to get that feedback? And to be very honest, also the hype for people to want to be part of this. And step number one is, well, by creating a community. And you might think that having a community of 10 people to start with is not a lot, but these people is going to guide a lot of your decisions, either on the UX side of things or the theme of the game. So number one, let's make sure that you think about creating a community. Number two, there's different ways that people is doing it now. It could be Discord server, like there's many platforms, but you have to think of that point, what's my vision of community? To what you were talking before, James, like, okay, is this going to be a very competitive game? So I need to make sure that I foster this hype, and that people is going to like be talking to each other, trying to get more competitive. Then that's kind of like where you're going to start drawing the line. Well, but not racism, but not sexism, but let's make sure that you have a clear idea where you want to go. At the beginning, it can be like not as easy to understand it, but as long as you're dealing with community every day, so you're going to start getting that feedback, and also things that are going to sit well with you. Oh, this user is super engaged and positive, and oh, this user is just like telling me how much I suck and how my graphics suck. That's not the kind of community that I would like my users to be involved on. So always keeping an idea or an eye on that. And then as you grow, again, it comes the tool side of things. You're going to start growing. You're not going to have enough time to go probably through all the comments or be 24/7. So a community manager will be ideal. Sometimes you start even with some people that wants to do it for free because they're so passionate about your community. So you start with volunteers, but then you equip them with some tools, hopefully, or utilize at least the very basic native tools that now are available on all these different platforms. And then you go big when it's just making sure that you have other side of things like player support, everything, community moderation and client success, any of those tools that will just take that community that you build from the ground and actually explode it and maintain it. So previous steps will help you. That when growth happens, you're not trying to catch up and figure out things. You already have a really strong sense of what the community is, what your terms of use are, and you just have to worry about scaling rather than catching up and setting policies right then.
Very clear, thank you. So we're coming up to 25 minutes. I usually try to keep these chats around the 25-minute mark. And I should add, if anybody has any questions for me or for Sharon, you can pop them in the comments and we'll get back to you. But the last question is the same question I ask people every week, and that is, for you personally, what is the part of your job that you get really excited about when you log on in the morning? What does a great day look like for you?
Working with communities for such a long time, I think that my passion lies on making sure that users are protected no matter where it is. And this comes from a very personal side, making sure that when I'm older than what I'm right now, my kids can go on the internet and just enjoy. It's part of their everyday life today, but want to make sure that not just my kids, but every single kid out there is protected. It's a very lushy goal, but I do believe that now is the time where people is reacting to it, acting upon it, and keywords serves as that kind of like center that connects to all these different companies, to all these different partnerships. So we have a great opportunity, and that's what excites me every single morning, the impact that we are creating every single day, and literally changing and saving lives, not only in the internet, but also in real life. So that's something that my moderators also share. And what really excites us is we're gonna take this hit. However, the impact just totally underestimates that hit, because we know that we're changing and protecting lives around the world. So that's it.
Quite right, and I couldn't agree more. So thank you so much for being a great colleague, who I enjoy working with very much. We're thrilled to have you in the player support team, and thank you for your time today. It's been a pleasure catching up, and yeah, we'll be in the comments for anybody who has any questions about trust and safety, or yeah. Thank you, Sharon.
Thanks so much, James. Thanks for having me.
Bye.